And this morning we are joined by John McCarthy, former senior advisor for political engagement at the Biden White House, to talk more about this papal conclave. Good morning. Firstly, what will these more than 130 cardinals do once the conclave begins?
Well, good morning and happy Conclave Day. The main thing that will be happening each and every day under this vow of secrecy is, eating, sleeping, praying, and voting. It's a pretty straightforward process from here on out. Today, there will be one series of votes that takes place after this Mass. And then each day, there'll be 2 votes in the morning and 2 votes in the afternoon. The votes are all done by hand, written out on paper ballots. And then each cardinal must process up to the front of the Sistine Chapel and place their ballot inside of a receptacle, and then all counted by hand. So each vote will take about 90 minutes to 2 hours. In between, they'll have breaks to chat with each other and pray, but really, this is just a process from here on out of conversation, prayer, and voting.
John, let's talk about the process, as you mentioned. Now, most of these cardinals have never met each other, and for a number of these cardinals, this is their first conclave. So we had heard a comment earlier about this is it's all so new to so many of them. Do you think that's going to extend the process a little bit longer?
Potentially. I mean, it's so new that in the first day after the Pope's funeral, there was a cardinal who asked if they could get name tags, just because so few of them have actually ever met. But many of the cardinals have been in Rome since the Pope's funeral. So they've been spending time getting to know one another. People try and guess and predict who the Pope might be. And some of the signals that you might look for are cardinals who might have worked with large organizations, which would have required them to travel and interface with other cardinals, or cardinals that might come from countries with a large number of cardinal electors. But really, as you alluded to, this could be a long process. It could be a short process. It's really kind of up in the air.
It really is. I mean, just looking back, Pope Francis was chosen to be the new pope after just 5 ballots, taking just 24 hours. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, I believe the last 3 popes have been chosen in this about 2-3 days. So wondering what you think is going to happen.
It's important to remember that this is also a prayerful and spiritual practice. And at the end of the day, Catholics believe that this is something that's ultimately guided by the Holy Spirit. So this isn't something where people are sitting around and getting up and giving speeches and campaigning for one another, but that cardinals are really kind of sitting on the sidelines, having private conversations, not necessarily about specific cardinals, but more about the direction of the church. I think that it would probably go on for just a few days. I don't anticipate this being something that drags on for weeks. Historically, there have been instances where it has lasted years. But I think that most people are expecting that this will just be kind of a couple of days.
But I want to ask you, initially only black smoke was part of the conclave tradition. What prompted the decision to start using white smoke more than about 100 years ago?
Yeah, as you alluded, it happened about 100 years ago when Pius X, at the end of a conclave, decided that everything relating to the conclave, ballots, paperwork, everything needed to be burned to kind of send up more smoke to signal that it is over. So that was the kind of first time that we kind of saw a huge flume of white smoke. Since then, the process has been modernized. You now actually use 2 different types of chemicals to make it very clear. There have been some close calls in the last few people couldn't quite tell. So now there's a different set of chemicals used for each to make sure that there's no confusion.
Don't want any gray smoke. That's one thing we do not need.
And John, once a new pope is selected, what happens next in the process?
Well, hopefully some applause, and the brother cardinals would gather around, and then the dean of the College of Cardinals would come up and first confirm that the individual accepts the position, and then after that they would ask if they choose a new name. You could, of course, keep your baptismal name, but historically, most popes choose a new name to start their pontificate, usually as a nod to someone that they respected or want to model their papacy after. After that, they go into the room of tears, named because it's usually a private moment of reflection for the new pope, where they're able to kind of sit and think for a second, usually overcome with emotion. They choose their papal garments. As you alluded, they have 3 different options size-wise, and they can pick from a number of pieces of papal regalia. And then from there, they're brought out to the balcony to St. Peter's to be announced to the world.
An incredible process. And John, before we do let you go, do you think that the next pope that will be elected will follow in the legacy of Francis, or do you think they take a more conservative approach?
It's important to recognize that over 2/3 of this College of Cardinals was appointed by Pope Francis. So if you had to predict, you would think that people would be looking for something like that. But really, at the end of the day, the thing that Pope Francis will be most remembered for was being a pastor and changing the kind of tone and tenor and warmness of the church. I think that overwhelmingly, a lot of these cardinals, as they're gathering, will be thinking about how they can make sure that the people that Pope Francis made feel welcome in the church will still feel welcome today.
John McCarthy, former senior advisor for political engagement at the Biden White House. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, John.